Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Blitzing the battleground states, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris make their final appeal to voters, where both camps plan to hold rallies today in our state.
And Tropical Depression 18 has developed here in the Caribbean. I'll show you where it's headed and when it could become a hurricane.
State authorities are investigating after shots ring out while police serve a search warrant. What we know about the person who was hit by the bullet in this case.
The race for the White House is in its final hours now, with both presidential campaigns making their final push in North Carolina today. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Great to have you with us. We have coverage of where both camps will be today. Let's give you a live look inside Dorton Arena, where former President Donald Trump is holding his rally. Right now, he is still speaking to the crowd. It is unusual this late in the election cycle to have presidential candidates here in North Carolina. It shows just how crucial North Carolina is to their way to the White House and that they want to win our state. Vice President Harris will finish out the final moments of her campaign in Pennsylvania. Today, she's expected to hold a rally on the famous Rocky Steps in Philadelphia. Guests include Lady Gaga and Oprah Winfrey. The state's 19 electoral votes offer the largest tally among the states expected to determine the Electoral College outcome. First Lady Jill Biden will campaign for Harris today in North Carolina. Her first stop is in Winston-Salem, then Carrboro, and then it's on to Durham. And we will have a live report from Heidi Kirk from Dorton Arena at Trump's rally within this newscast. Count on WRAL for the fastest election results and most comprehensive coverage tomorrow night. Starting at 7 p.m., WRAL News and NBC News will partner for results and analysis on local and national races. NBC will be tracking the national picture throughout the night on WRAL. And then be sure to watch our 11 o'clock news for a wrap-up of all the big local races. For nonstop North Carolina election coverage, watch WRAL News Plus and Fox 50 starting at 7 p.m. We'll have reporters across the state at the candidates' watch parties and live analysis as the results come in. You can watch WRAL News Plus on Spectrum Channel 1257, Channel 34, over the air, and wherever you stream WRAL.
Other news we are following this noon, Cary police are asking for your help identifying the person who shot a woman on I-40. It happened shortly after 6:30 in the eastbound lanes near Chapel Hill Road. Officers say a woman was shot in the leg and taken to the hospital for treatment. Her name and condition at this hour are unknown. Officers do not believe this is a road rage incident. Contact Cary police if you think you can help.
Tropical Depression 18 has formed in the Caribbean. It's likely to move north into the Gulf of Mexico later this week. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look at the path and possible impacts to the U.S.
So right now it's about 200 miles south of Kingston, Jamaica, which is right here. So that's the first place that this storm is likely to affect, with some very heavy rain and gusty winds. It's likely to be close to hurricane strength at that point. But right now it has winds at 35 miles per hour. Hurricane strength is 74 miles per hour or stronger. So you can see it becomes a tropical storm, most likely then as it moves past Jamaica and over Cuba, it is a hurricane. It continues to move into the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, but may weaken a bit as it heads toward potentially the Gulf Coast. Now, one of the models, the European model, has it just staying down here and not affecting land, but it is an outlier. Most of the computer models bring it up into the southeast, potentially possibly weakening it and stalling right here along the Gulf Coast, but some of those bring it across parts of North Carolina or Tennessee. At that point, it would be just a remnant system, and it would bring us some much needed rain. It wouldn't look like anything that would necessarily cause us any problems. As a matter of fact, for the next 7 days, which would include the timeline for that storm as it would move inland, say around the weekend or so, we're talking about less than 1/4 of an inch in our part of North Carolina, but parts of the mountains could see 1 to maybe 3 inches of rain in the next 7 days. Again, some of that would be related potentially to that weakening storm. Tomorrow, it's going to be nice and quiet. It's a cooler day today. Tomorrow for voting at 8 a.m., 61 degrees. At lunchtime, 73. And then we climb into the mid-70s for the afternoon. We are looking at a big warm-up that continues into the middle of the week. I'll show you when we could be near record highs.
At least 11 people were injured when tornadoes ripped through parts of Oklahoma on Sunday. Several homes in Oklahoma City were damaged, along with downed power lines, traffic lights, and trees. Many vehicles were also overturned and destroyed. People have begun sorting through their homes, trying to salvage what they can. Thousands of people are without power. No word as to when services will be restored.
New this noon, Raleigh police have arrested a man who they say shot a woman and a boy. Reginald Sturdivant is charged with assault inflicting serious bodily injury. Officers say Sturdivant shot a woman and boy last night on Big Bass Drive off North Rogers Lane. The woman and boy who were shot are expected to recover. Police have not indicated a motive. A woman is accused of hitting and killing another woman with her car in Raleigh. New today, that woman will have her first court appearance in this case. 25-year-old Kiara Brown is facing a murder charge. She is in the Wake County Detention Center without bond. Police say Brown and 39-year-old Tara Dunn were having some sort of argument Friday. Investigators say it ended with Brown using her car to hit Dunn. Dunn died from her injuries at the hospital.
Let's take a look at stocks now and give you a look at what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is doing on this first day of the work week. Plummeting right now in the red, down 377 points. The NASDAQ also down 66 points, and the S&P 500 declining 25 points at this hour. Happening today, parents can learn more about Durham Public Schools' plan to restructure. This is focused on the district's Growing Together plan. Leaders say the main goals are equity, access, diversity, and managing growth in Durham. The district will be split into 5 regions. Each will have equal opportunity and a base school. An information session is happening this evening, starting at 5:30 at Jordan High School.
Today, family and fans are remembering legendary composer, musician, conductor, and producer Quincy Jones. He died Sunday at 91 years of age at his home in Los Angeles. Jones' career spanned 70 years, and NBC's Joe Fryer looks back on the life of the man who worked with everyone from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson.
Known to so many simply as Q. For more than 60 years, Quincy Jones shaped music history as a producer, arranger, musician, and legendary collaborator. Born in 1933, Quincy Delight Jones Jr. discovered an early love for music, riffing on the trumpet with the Seattle jazz scene.
We were working at grown-up nightclubs until 4 and 5 in the morning when we were 13 and 14 years old.
Before long, Jones discovered his true passion, arranging and producing. Breaking barriers and working with music legends.
I would like to have you meet a gentleman who's been doing these marvelous orchestrations for me, Mr. Quincy Jones. Like this. Fly me to the moon.
Composing music for Hollywood films and iconic TV shows, including the theme for Roots. Perhaps his biggest collaboration changed the landscape of music, producing 3 blockbuster albums with Michael Jackson, including the best-selling album of all time.
It was a great ride. The whole 80s was great for me.
Another highlight of that decade,
1, 2.
We are the world. Jones was the driving force behind a legendary collaboration, the top artists of the time releasing We Are the World to raise money for famine relief. The project was captured in a recent Netflix documentary, Jones spanning decades of musical evolution.
I feel blessed to have been born in that era, to come up with swing all the way up through to rap today. Blessed, absolutely blessed.
Quincy Jones, a musical visionary who filled the world with so much rhythm, simply by following his own beat. Even into his 9th decade, he told Al Roker the music was still in him.
I feel like I'm just getting started.
You're just getting started?
Yeah, man, I really do.
Certainly won't be another like him. That was Joe Fryer reporting. A few of Jones' causes included fighting HIV and AIDS, educating children, and providing for the poor around the world. Still ahead this noon, video of Jason Kelsey smashing a man's phone outside a college football stadium. The homophobic slur about his brother Travis that caused this reaction.
Plus, on Election Eve, the North Carolina State Board of Elections is gearing up the impact record early voter turnout could have on Decision 2024.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
And we bring you back this noon with this live look right now from one of our many WRAL live cameras. This Pinehurst Resort and Country Club, home of the famed number 2, and play goes on there as you watch WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device.
The FBI is investigating a shooting in Rocky Mount that sent a person to the hospital. The investigation is slowly unfolding, but here's what we know. Police were serving a search warrant when a shooting broke out. WRAL's Sean Gallagher is live with what we've learned about the case and the person who was shot. Sean.
Yeah, Renee, the law enforcement agencies out here have been here since 8:15, going on 4 hours right now. This is as close as we can get. As you can see, they are investigating about a block down. But I looked on Google Maps. This is basically a dead end. There's a cul-de-sac at the end of this street. So, again, police letting us get just this close. We really can't see what's around the corner here. But this is what they tell us. Around 8:15 this morning, Rocky Mount Police arrived to serve a search warrant. Rocky Mount Police say it was with their drug unit in collaboration with the violent crime unit that was serving the search warrant here. Now, shots were fired, leading to someone being shot. That person is expected to survive. I just spoke to a man who's on his way to work. He woke up to all of this activity right outside his house.
My roommate, he the one who told me about all this going on. I was asleep soundly. I ain't know nothing about this was going on until I looked out the window. There she was, and I was looking like, oh damn, they want dogs out and all that.
Is that normal for this neighborhood?
Nah. This is the first time this has happened since I've been down here. I've been down here going on three and a half years. So the first time I seen this right here, especially being next door, yeah, this is not likely.
You ever? So Rocky Mount says no police officers were injured during this incident, but we're still waiting to get a lot more information, a lot of unanswered questions. We're trying to figure out any information about the victim. Were they involved or just a bystander? We also want to know who was responsible for the shots fired, because police did not make it clear if it came from them or somebody that was involved in this search warrant, though the police department does say they are investigating this as an officer-involved shooting, but we'll have to wait to get more information from them. Rocky Mount Police expected to have a press conference later this afternoon around 3 o'clock. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News in Rocky Mount.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, Durham officially has a new county manager. Claudia Hager is officially, she has been named the new county manager. This all comes after Kimberly Sowell submitted her resignation last week. Sowell was placed on administrative leave back on September 9th. County leaders did not say why. There was no reason given, but the board did vote unanimously in favor to accept her resignation. So Hager spoke about how she feels accepting the new position.
Congratulations, County Manager Hager. I am honored and humbled. The County Commissioners asked me to consider stepping in permanently as the manager and provide some continuity of leadership. I want to thank them for entrusting me with this opportunity to lead this wonderful organization.
So she is officially the new county manager. That does take effect immediately, but she will be sworn in on November 12th.
College game day took a turn this weekend at Penn State after a man crossed the line with Jason Kelsey. Video circulating on social media shows Kelsey walking outside Penn State's Beaver Stadium surrounded by fans, and one man could be heard using a homophobic slur to describe Kelsey's brother Travis and his relationship with Taylor Swift. The video shows Kelsey then smash the man's phone and shout the same slur back at him. Some are split on whether Kelsey's emotional reaction was warranted, while others say people can't expect to say whatever they want without repercussion. Just a week after Los Angeles celebrated a World Series win by the Dodgers, a new mural honoring former pitcher Fernando Valenzuela now decorates a local neighborhood there. The 6-story mural shows Valenzuela, who died October 22nd. Valenzuela debuted for the Dodgers in 1980, pitching for 17 seasons in the big leagues. The artist also created the iconic mural honoring Shohei Ohtani in Little Tokyo, another neighborhood in L.A. Now, both murals will face each other on First Street to symbolize bridges between communities there. nice recognition. Valenzuela was something. He was a great pitcher and an icon of the Mexican community there.
A beautiful tribute there. Beautiful weather right now. We had a lot of cloud cover this morning. We still have some clouds in the sky, but we're seeing a lot more sunshine out there, Elizabeth, and it's warming up.
It is beautiful. I mean, we had a gorgeous weekend. We're looking at another day like that, of course. So we did start, as Renee said, with some clouds this morning. Those clouds are dissipating pretty quickly. You may see some overcast periods, on and off for the next little while, but most of the afternoon is likely to be partly cloudy. Taking a live look across downtown Raleigh, it is 65 degrees right now, and the dew point's 52, and so that is nice and comfortable. We'll see highs in the upper 60s. Here's a look at the big picture. I'm following a front that's back to the west. Lots of thunder and lightning with that this morning. Some of that started to dissipate a little bit, but there's a good bit of rain with this back to our west. As it crosses the Mississippi and moves across the Appalachians toward us, it is going to lose some of that energy and some of that moisture, and so we are not likely to see a lot of rain here. Boy, we definitely do need some. As that front's approaching, it's a little breezy. Our wind is coming out of the southeast right now at around 5 to 10, gusting to around 17 in Rocky Mount, and we may see some gusts up to 15 to 20 through the afternoon. It's 70 in Fayetteville and 72 in Clinton, 70 in Goldsboro, but cooler in Roxborough at 59, where we're still dealing with a little bit of cloud cover. Around town in Raleigh, a high of 69, 67 in Durham, and 75 degrees in Fayetteville. Beautiful leaves out there right now. Boy, it just really looks like we're getting close to the peak of our color right now. Laura Gold from Old Raleigh sent us that beautiful photo. Go to WRAL.com, search Weather Watchers. We would love to see what's happening in your backyard. 67 is our normal high, so we'll be very close to that today. But then our temperatures really bounce to 79 tomorrow and 80 on Wednesday, 78 on Thursday before the front comes through. And of course, the 80 on Wednesday is close to the record high of 83 in Fayetteville. 84 is the forecast, and 85 is the record. So we could easily tie it or break it in Fayetteville. Our normal low is 43, and we're well above that as well. Tomorrow morning, 56, and then into the 60s Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And the reason for that big change is this high pressure system. As this high is sitting to our north, it's feeding in air that's coming off of the northeast, and so that's been a good bit cooler. But watch what happens. This high will sink southward over the next few days, and as it does, it's going to pick up the warmth from the south and push it right into our area. So you can see the red shaded colors there, and that's going to be temperatures above normal. And we may see temperatures above normal through the middle of November. I took a sneak peek at what the climate center shows for the month as a whole, and it looks like we could still see temperatures above normal. We definitely need some rain, and we have the potential late Wednesday into Thursday to see some showers. And then, of course, a question mark on the weekend as to whether or not we will see some remnant rain from what could be Hurricane Rafael. We'll talk more about what that potential looks like coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Who will pay for the massive cost to repair the power grid after Helene devastated western North Carolina? Today on WRAL News at 4, 5 on your side is digging into how much you'll be asked to chip in.
And then at 6, a home abandoned for years now poses a health hazard. WRAL investigates who owns the property and what the city of Durham is now doing after we started asking questions. And still ahead this noon, can success impact your risk for dementia later in life? The role some researchers say your education level and earnings can play.
You can put more money into your 401ks beginning next year. The changes taking effect to help boost your retirement account.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, we want to bring you live pictures of Dorton Arena right now, where former President Trump literally just walked off of the stage. You can see a lot of people starting to exit Dorton Arena, but he was on that stage speaking for an hour and 27 minutes. This was his first stop of the day. He will be in Pennsylvania later today, which is also where VP Harris will be. She is set to arrive at 1:10 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. 12:30, VP candidate Tim Walz, he is in Wisconsin, delivering remarks there. But former President Trump will also hold another campaign rally in Pennsylvania as well. Both presidential candidates and their running mates will visit a total of 5 different states today. Trump and Harris will both be in Pittsburgh later this evening, but their speeches will be a couple of hours apart.
The IRS is increasing the amount that people can contribute to their 401k and other retirement plans to account for inflation. The government agency is giving the annual contribution limit for 401k plans a $500 bump for the 2025 tax year. This new measure includes other plans like 403 retirement plans, governmental 457 plans, and federal government's thrift savings plan. Limits for the IRA annual contribution as well as the IRA catch-up contribution for people aged 50 and over will remain the same. Union factory workers at Boeing are voting today on whether to accept the company's latest contract offer or continue a nearly 2 months long strike. The walkout has shut down production of most Boeing passenger planes. A vote in favor would clear the way for Boeing to resume production at factories on the West Coast and bring in some much needed cash. The latest proposal is offering pay raises of 38% over 4 years, as well as signing and productivity bonuses.
For decades, fun was on the menu at TGI Fridays. It seems the party may soon come to an end. The restaurant chain has filed for bankruptcy. Fridays says declining sales during and since the pandemic and its own capital structuring are to blame. The action affects 39 of the company's owned and operated restaurants. It does not affect restaurants that are franchised and independently owned. The owner of brands including the Vitamin Shop and Pet Supplies Plus also filed for bankruptcy protection after months of losses. Franchise Group listed nearly $2 billion of debt in its filings. Federal authorities are also examining the founder's dealings with a major shareholder based in L.A. The company says it agreed with 80% of its senior debt holders on a restructuring plan. The group sold the Sylvan Learning business in February.
The 2024 election will go down in history in North Carolina. We're live with an update on how many voters in our state have already cast their ballots for the 2024 general election.
Supercharged storms like Hurricane Helene are the norm. How warm oceans are contributing to catastrophic flooding. First, here's a look at the winning North Carolina Education Lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
North Carolina has surpassed a record for early voting turnout just this past weekend, totaling now nearly 4.5 million people who have already cast their ballot. Officials expect at least 1 million more to be cast tomorrow on Election Day. Elections officials told reporters today they are prepared for whatever tomorrow and the days after the election might bring. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie was at that news conference and joins us live from the State Emergency Operations Center. Laura, good afternoon.
Yeah, hi, Jeff. You know, the fact that I'm here at the State Emergency Operations Center instead of at the State Elections Board building lets you know right there what some of those security measures are. Election officials move their operations here for Election Day just as they did in 2020, as it is a much more secure facility. And they're asking voters and campaigners to be civil and respectful to each other tomorrow at the polls. State Elections Director Karen Brinson-Bell said so far, they have not experienced more threats or problems at the polls this year than they have during other presidential elections, but they are prepared just in case of problems tomorrow or in the days following Election Day. Bell said after the unrest seen in other states in the wake of the 2020 election, many county election boards here have also added extra security measures like bulletproof glass and panic buttons. She said they've been working with local and state law enforcement to prepare for any similar problems.
Law enforcement cannot be stationed at polling places in North Carolina, but they can be on hand. We've done training with them. They've done training for us to make sure that we know, when they're called in, what are election laws, what are, other laws that they have to consider when they're helping to keep the peace or deal with the disruption.
And Bell said they'll be watching especially for threats to election officials or workers or voter intimidation outside the polling place. She said campaigners can walk up to you and ask you to vote for their candidate. That is a First Amendment right there. But a campaigner cannot question a voter about their eligibility to vote or interfere with their ability to cast a ballot. That is a crime. Now, again, they asked us to remind everyone, if this is your, if you haven't yet mailed your absentee mail-in ballot, please do that. Please don't do that at this point. They said at this point you can take that to your county elections board by hand tomorrow, but it is too late to mail it. So she says stress to those people that they should not try to put that into the mail. Also wanted us to remind all those voters out there that the polls are open tomorrow from 6:30 a.m. till 7:30 p.m. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
If you're hoping for closure on the presidential race tomorrow night, you may need to temper those expectations. An election night decision is unlikely due to the razor-thin margins in key swing states. Pennsylvania, for example, does not begin counting mail-in ballots until Election Day. And that caused long delays in 2020, though changes have been made in that state to speed things up. There's also a possibility that the polls are wrong and one candidate ends up taking a huge lead, making the outcome quick and obvious. Some Trump and Harris allies believe this will happen.
I don't pay much attention to polls. I really trust what I feel on the ground. The race will be decided on Tuesday. We are seeing record turnout.
It's going to be a very, very good day for Donald Trump on Tuesday. I'm confident that he's going to win without any question.
Political experts say we may have to wait almost a week for the presidential winner to be declared. In 2020, the race was called on Saturday.
And a reminder, if you need a ride to the polls on Election Day, the city of Raleigh is here to help. City Council agreed to waive charges for city buses on November 5th, so they will be free. You can get a free ride, and the city hopes this will encourage people to get out and vote. The fastest, most complete election results will be right at your fingertips in the WRAL News app. Just scan the QR code on your screen to download the app. The WRAL News app will provide interactive, up-to-the-minute results for more than 400 races across our state. You drill down to see the running count for races on your ballot in your county or nationwide. Make sure you check your settings and enable alerts so you get notifications when key races are called.
Extreme and deadly storms are becoming more common around the world. Scientists have been analyzing the influence of human-caused climate change. Ted Lindner shares the findings.
The effects of human-caused climate change are giving new meaning to the saying, when it rains, it pours. In the wake of recent catastrophic flooding events in the U.S. and around the world, scientists say this destruction could become more frequent in the future. According to Andrew Winters of the University of Colorado Boulder, climate change is setting the stage for weather patterns like rainstorms to become more extreme.
While the baseline patterns and processes are still the same to produce these extreme events, you're basically supercharging the environments that allow them to occur so that you can take a previous event that happened in a former climate and make it more likely or more dramatic than it might have been without human-caused climate change.
These warnings come as eastern portions of Spain are still in critical condition. This after communities last week were pelted with about 1 year's worth of rain in just 8 hours. More than 200 people have been reported killed so far.
Extraordinarily amounts of precipitation.
Here in the States, recovery also continues across North Carolina communities decimated by Hurricane Helene, which also unleashed critical flooding.
The amount of precipitation that occurred in North Carolina was so far outside the bounds of what anyone had experienced.
Meanwhile, the findings of a recent United Nations report are spelling trouble. Officials say the globe is on track for significantly more warming unless world powers dramatically curb fossil fuel use and production.
And that was Ted Lindner reporting. According to the UN Secretary General, this report shows annual greenhouse gas emissions at an all-time high, rising 1.3% last year. He says they must fall 9% each year to 2030 to limit global temperature rise.
A man has serious injuries after being shot during a homecoming event at Shaw University. This happened on Person Street around 12:30 Sunday morning. The university says an argument in a parking lot led to that shooting. Students nearby heard what happened.
Honestly, it's shock because I was asleep at the time. And I remember Like, I just like woke up to the first gun sound.
It's not clear whether the person who was shot was a student.
Here's another way your college or graduate degree is paying off, how it can significantly reduce your risk for dementia.
Plus, we're just weeks away from shopping for a Christmas tree and why buying a real one can help make a real difference for Western North Carolina's recovery. New research suggests limiting sugar consumption during pregnancy and for the first 2 years after birth may reduce a child's risk of chronic illnesses as an adult. Experts found reducing sugar consumption in this window decreased the type 2 diabetes risk by about 35% and the risk of high blood pressure by roughly 20%. Federal dietary guidelines recommend anyone 2 years of age or older limit their daily intake of added sugar to less than 10% of their total calories. Scientists in London say a higher education, a solid professional career, and more financial resources will help insulate you from cognitive impairments later in life. Researchers found people with post-secondary education were 43% less likely to move into mild cognitive impairments. Wealthy people were 26% less likely to go from mild impairments to dementia and were more likely to recover healthy cognitive states. Now, scientists say higher education and demanding jobs likely provide more mental stimulation and brain reserve.
Nearly 3 million American adults have epilepsy, but many people don't know much about this brain disease. Epilepsy is a chronic brain disorder that leads to abnormal electrical discharges within the brain, causing recurring, unprovoked seizures. Epilepsy varies from person to person. It can affect anyone at any time of their life.
Many people who have epilepsy have rescue medications that are prescribed, and if you're a caregiver or a family member and you have those medicines, you can use them as prescribed by your doctor.
There are 3 things to remember when someone is having a seizure. First, keep the person safe, make sure they're not bumping into anything, and do not restrain them. Next, turn them on their side. And finally, stay with them throughout the episode.
Christmas tree farms are key to the economy in Western North Carolina. Coming up, what makes that area prime for growing Fraser firs and how to find out which farms are open for business despite the recent storm.
Plus, the lead singer of Coldplay takes a tumble while performing in Australia. What happened in the moments before the fall and what may have saved Chris Martin from serious injury. A home abandoned for more than 10 years. It's falling apart and causing safety concerns for neighbors who are frustrated and questioning why the city has not torn it down. That's the subject of a WRAL investigation airing in tonight's 6 o'clock news. The home in South Durham is in such rough shape, raccoons are living in the siding. It's a perplexing situation for neighbors who say the house has been untouched for years, despite being a pretty high-dollar piece of property. They've been pushing the city for years to do something about it. Exasperated by the inaction, they came to WRAL Investigates' Sarah Kruger.
Who do you feel like is really dropping the ball here? Who's letting you down?
I think it's some of everybody, right? Like, I think it's, the ball's getting passed and nobody's owning it. I know the HOA board doesn't have a ton of muscle. The management company, I'm sure, has dealt with stuff like this before. The city's got bigger fish to fry.
And you pay into an HOA,
Yes.
right? You're required to,
Yep.
in part, to keep the neighborhood looking nice.
Yeah. So paying money every year and getting angry letters when our mailboxes are dirty or our grass is too high, and then this sits here for 10 years. It just feels unevenly enforced.
Sarah explains why the city has not torn it down yet, what's next in the process, and how some progress is in sight now that WRAL Investigates started asking questions.
Next to tourism, Christmas trees are a driving force of the economy in Western North Carolina. Meteorologist Chris Michaels explains why so many grow in that part of the state and how this may be a good way to help our neighbors following Hurricane Helene.
Christmas tree farms are a huge part of the economy in western North Carolina, so much so that the White House's Christmas tree is coming from Avery County. We first brought you that story last week from Cartner Farm, where they actually said they estimate they've lost thousands of trees because of the mudslides with Helene. So that could affect their harvest in a few years. Ashe, Avery, and Allegheny counties are consistently within the top 10 for Christmas tree production across the country. The mountainous climate definitely favoring certain species of trees. In fact, when you look at the agricultural census over the past few years, nearly 20 to 25% of natural Christmas trees across the country come from the North Carolina high country, that being Ashe, Allegheny, Avery, and Watauga counties. And a lot of it just has to do, again, with the elevation. Fraser firs especially, they can be cultivated at an elevation of 2,500 feet or above. That's where you're less likely to endure drought just because rising air condenses and then rains out more frequently. In the mountains, you're less likely to see heat stress and less likely to see pests, although in a warming climate that could change. That's something that researchers at North Carolina State have been researching over the past several weeks and months. Meanwhile, right now on WRAL.com, we're taking you to several links for Operation Save Christmas, a list of farms where you can go and help support folks that have been dealing with the aftermath of Helene. We also have a link to who's accepting visitors. Again, all of that right now on the homepage of WRAL.com.
Bet with a small amount of digging, you could find the local lots where the trees get sent. Which ones of those are coming from our mountains? And then you can purchase it from there and help out as well.
Yeah, and you may be wondering, some farms did have some damage from mudslides, their trees anyway, from Helene, but many of the trees did survive and they are ready for Christmas. So start looking for those in a couple of weeks.
Elizabeth Gardner goes to the mountains every year to get her Christmas tree, right? Bringing it back.
do, absolutely. And so we have a particular place that we like to go. So we're planning to do that, but definitely we're going to check very closely ahead of time to make sure that they're welcoming folks. We're definitely looking at no weather that reminds us of Christmas anytime soon. Fayetteville looking beautiful, so is Apex, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. In parts of the viewing area, we started off with some clouds this morning, but it's looking really pretty out there right now, and temperatures will be comfortable through the afternoon. For Election Day tomorrow, we're looking at high pressure sitting there and keeping things nice and dry. It'll start a warm up for us. It's going to be a really warm afternoon, and then tracking a front that's likely to come through late Wednesday into Thursday and bring us our next best chance of rain. Of course, we started the newscast talking about Tropical Depression 18. We'll take another closer look at that coming up over the next couple of minutes. But let's talk about our voting forecast for tomorrow. If you're headed out to the polls early, 61 degrees at 8 o'clock, 73 at noon, and at 4 o'clock, 76. And we'll see variably cloudy skies. It should feel a lot like it looks outside right now. As a matter of fact, this is a look at our high-resolution satellite and seeing a good bit of sunshine, especially from Raleigh southward. Still a little bit of cloud cover up around Person County, Granville County, up toward Mecklenburg County, Virginia. But that is all likely to continue to lift northward. We check out the big picture. Lots of rain ahead of and along our front. Some severe storms. As a matter of fact, we have some ongoing tornado warnings right now across parts of Oklahoma. They got hit hard over the weekend, and there they are again with tornado warnings there right this minute. Our front will move into our area, slow, stall over us. We're not likely to see any severe weather here. The heaviest rain is likely to be to the west or to the south of us. But boy, it continues to move eastward, looking pretty robust. And then once it gets to us, a lot of that heaviest rain will be down into South Carolina, Georgia, or potentially in the western part of the state, and then maybe from the Triangle area southward. We're only going to give it a 40% chance for Wednesday night and Thursday morning. And then other than that, it's just a very small chance. This is a look at some potential rainfall totals. It could be up to 1 to 2 to 3 inches, especially down here south of Asheville. But for our viewing area, this darker green area is going to be closer to ½ an inch, around the Triangle about 1/4 inch, and closer to the coast about 1/10 of an inch. And so unless something changes, we're really still not going to see very much rain. Tropical Depression 18 has winds at 35 miles per hour, but it is likely to intensify rapidly. By the time it moves past Jamaica, it's a tropical storm, but moving across Cuba, it's a hurricane. Rafael will be its name, most likely, becoming a tropical storm before it starts to move inland. We'll take a look at those model plots, and a lot of them want to weaken it here just off the coast. Some of them bring it farther north, but we're not likely to see any rain from that until maybe the end of the weekend or early next week, and that's really, really iffy. In the meantime, we're dry for Tuesday and Wednesday. That 80-degree day is close to a record.
As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today. Former President Donald Trump is in Raleigh the day before Election Day. He held a rally at Dorton Arena not long ago. Trump's campaign is hitting several battleground states today. He heads to Pennsylvania next and then on to Michigan later today.
Vice President Harris is also hitting several key states, finishing out the final moments of her campaign in Pennsylvania today. Meanwhile, First Lady Jill Biden will be campaigning for Harris here in North Carolina, including stops in Winston-Salem, Carrboro, and Durham. Count on WRAL for complete coverage of these visits and everything you need to know ahead of Election Day during our evening news.
Police in Rocky Mount shot a person while serving a search warrant this morning. This investigation unfolded on Windsor Street around 8. The person who was shot is expected to survive. No officers were hurt. The SBI is now investigating, which is standard protocol.
For the second time in less than a month, an entertainer has taken a tumble at a venue in Melbourne, Australia.
Thank you for catching me so much.
Thank you for catching me, he said. That was Coldplay's Chris Martin. He was talking to the crowd there at the fourth and final show, and he walked backwards into a large hole there. Chris thanked the person who caught him there and then continued on with the show. You might recall pop star Olivia Rodrigo also took a tumble during a recent performance in Australia. This was at a different venue, though.
Early voters are making the annual trek to Rochester, New York to pay tribute to a legendary suffragette. Susan B. Anthony dedicated her life to social justice, campaigning against slavery and furthering the cause of women's rights. November 15th, 1872, she and 14 other women broke the law by voting. Each year, Anthony is remembered as a champion of women's rights. Voters plaster Anthony's headstone in Mount Hope Cemetery with "I voted" stickers.
Our pets of the day come from Love Mutts Rescue. They're real world travelers who came from bad situations in Europe, and now they're looking for calm, loving homes. Shoku is a 2.5-year-old from Albania and has some small scars on his face from dogs on the street. Maita is from three-year-old girl, I should say, from Kosovo with her puppies. She was rescued. She rests in her crate, is good on a leash. Apply to meet and adopt one or both of them at lovemuttsrescue.org. NBC News Daily up next on WRAL, your next local news update in 30 minutes.
You can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Have a great day.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.